All right, guys. Hey, welcome back to another DBI Political Theory episode. I'm your host, Director Deer, okay? And today we're talking about Aristotle and the excellence of the state. All right. Now, before we get into Aristotle and what he thinks, okay, last couple episodes I did talk about wanting to shorten the episodes, make them a little bit more digestible for you all. So, again, bear with me while I make the proper changes and edits, okay? And also, you may or may not hear a slight echo. I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm going to work out those kinks so that everything can be smooth moving forward, okay? Now, let's get into Aristotle. Let's do this. Now, you might want to know, who is Aristotle? Who actually is Aristotle? He was born in 384 BCE, okay? And he lived 58 years. He was born in Stagira, Greece. It's an ancient province. And he was the son of a physician for the king of Macedonia. So his dad was a doctor for the king. He studied under Plato at his school, at Plato's school called the Academy, when he was 22 years old. And he also went on to tutor young Alexander the Great. Okay. He also started his own school called the Lyceum. Now, guys, what did Aristotle contribute to the profession of political theory? Okay. He wrote many essays on a wide range of topics, but this particular episode we're going to be talking about his book called Politics. Okay, and Politics discusses in particular how states form, systems and forms of government, the best system and form of government, and also, lastly, why revolutions occur. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's learn about Aristotle, okay, and his political theories. Now, Aristotle, he says that every state is a community of some kind, and every community is established with a view to some good. Okay, so every community has a particular goal in mind that they think is good for them. Now, in this book, guys, Aristotle posits, or he believes, he argues, that humans are naturally political animals who can only find realization within a political community. And that from these cohesive political communities, or just large groups in general, if you want to think of it more simply, all right, from these cohesive political communities arise states. He believes that states form from smaller cohesive communities. Okay. Now, from here, he dives deeper into his logic. So he explains his logic on topics like why and how states form, like I said, systems, forms of government, and which one is the best. Okay. Lastly, why revolutions occur. Now, Aristotle, okay, he believes that humans always try to obtain what they think is good. This is the same for larger communities. Again, they want to achieve this particular goal. Aristotle wants to know which is the best state or political community, and he considers qualifications of the type of leader in each form of government. Now, typically, to Aristotle, when other people who want to answer this question, when they go about trying to figure it out, they think, according to Aristotle, that the qualification to be a leader in each type of state or government, okay, they think that the qualifications to be a leader in different political communities or states are the same. Okay, they think the qualifications are the same, and that they only differ in the number of subjects or how many people are governed within that particular state or form of government. Now, Aristotle refers to a king and a statesman. He uses the examples, the difference between a king and a statesman to explain this conception that other people think about. And he says particularly, quote, the distinction which is made between the king and the statesman is as follows. When a government is personal, okay, the ruler is a king. When, according to the rules of political science, the citizens rule and are ruled in turn, then he is called a statesman. Now, what does that mean? Aristotle is basically saying that when one person rules the community or state, okay, that makes him a king. He is ruling over all the other people, his subjects, okay? And his word goes. Nobody else can trump the king's words. However, on the other hand, with a statesman, the statesman is often elected to rule by the citizens, which means the citizens rule, yet the policies of the statesman also govern the citizens. So they're both ruling each other, okay? And that's what makes a statesman, according to Aristotle. A statesman is just like a governor. Think of it like a governor, okay? Now, get this. Aristotle believes that this view is incorrect. What people think, okay, that the king here is a person who rules over a personal government, all right, or the statesman is one who rules the citizens and the citizens rule the statesman. He thinks this is wrong, okay, and he employs the scientific method. He meaning Aristotle. He employs the scientific method of reducing larger structures into their smallest components to truly understand the formation of a state or political community. Okay, he wants you to look at it at its smallest part and then work your way back up into the larger part so that you can understand the entire mechanics. Okay, the entire formation of a state. It's just like if you were to take apart a clock. Okay, you would take apart all the gears and the counterweights and the hands, the hours, the piece, all the pieces. Okay, you will see how each individual piece functions on its own, and then how it functions in conjunction with all the other parts to form a functioning clock. Okay, that's what he wants you to do. Start small, work your way up. All right, and he says, quote, "He who thus considers things in their first growth and origin, whether a state or anything else, will obtain the clearest view of them." Okay, so he stands by this. Now, according to Aristotle, guys, there are several components required for a political community. Okay, so let's start with the first one. All right, and they are as follows here on the left. The first component, okay, that you need for a political community is a union of those who cannot live without each other, namely males and females. Okay, now, for Aristotle, this union forms because humans naturally tend to want to leave behind images of themselves. Okay, obviously we're made to reproduce. That's what humans do. Gotta leave the legacy behind. Okay, we're all adults here. You know what it is. Now, Aristotle, remember, he wants you to break things down into the smallest part. Okay, to understand the larger, bigger picture. All right, and he believes the smallest part of a state is the family unit or the household. And Aristotle views the male in this household or the family unit as the natural ruler of the household, and the female is a subject within the household. And he says, quote, "That which can foresee by the exercise of the mind is by nature a master, and that which can with its body give effect to such foresight is a subject, and by nature a slave. Hence, master and slave have the same interest." Okay, now what does that mean? That means, okay, Aristotle's saying that anybody who is able to have an idea or concept of inside their head, okay, they're able to see plans in their head. These people are naturally masters, while those who do not use this ability, they don't have this ability. However, their body can be used to bring forth this concept or idea or foresight, execute, affect this foresight, okay, bring it into reality. They are naturally slaves, okay? So to define a slave, according to Aristotle, a slave is anything that can be used to accomplish a goal, including people, okay? So for example, a plumber would be the master, okay? And their interest is to fix pipe blockages. Now, the plumber's wrench would be considered a slave because his body is used to achieve this goal. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm leaving it in this time. This is like the 7th time, 8th, 9th time that these freaking planes have flew by while I'm trying to record this. Okay. So now you get to watch it too. Okay. This will be all part of the same episode. Guys, I'm not taking this out. Sorry. Now, if you were thinking that Aristotle believes that women are slaves, you're wrong. Okay, and here's why. Okay, he says that nature distinguishes between females and slaves. So they are different, okay? And here's the difference, the distinction. Women are not niggardly, okay? And he does not mean the racial slur. He means the old English term, which means ungenerous and stingy. That's what niggardly means, okay? So he's saying that women are not ungenerous or stingy. They are giving, okay? But he also, more importantly, says that they make things for a single use or purpose, okay? In quote, he says, every instrument is best made when intended for one and not for many uses, okay? So for women, he believes they make things for one particular use. Let's say clothes, okay? Women used to make clothes by hand. They're not making clothes for bears to wear. They're not making clothes for you to fold them up, make it into a ball, and shoot it somewhere, okay? They're making clothes for you to wear on your back so you don't get cold in the wintertime, or you're not too hot in the summertime, or whatever, okay? You get the point. They're not making things for multiple uses, okay? Only one, okay? Also, in a way, women could be looked at as good for a use and not that use. More so that they are the people, the ones that bring forth the ideas of the male, okay? They're bringing forth the vision that they have for this household, okay? They're making it real. That's what the union is, okay? The man has the vision. Here's how I want our household to be. This is the framework. Let's make it happen. The woman, okay, she helps him by bringing forth his goals and bringing forth his vision into reality, okay? According to Aristotle, asterisk, okay? Now, this contrasts with barbarians, okay? When Aristotle talks about barbarians, these are lawless people. They don't have any leaders, okay? They don't have any rules. He says that because they don't have any rules or natural leaders, this is why they hold women and slaves on the same level, okay? Barbarians equate women and slaves, okay? And he says that they do this because, again, they don't have any natural rulers and because they are all a community of slaves, both barbarian men and women. They are all slaves because they do not use foresight, according to Aristotle. However, they do use their bodies to bring forth a particular goal or foresight. Now, the second component you need for a political community is a village. All right? And Aristotle believes that the most natural form of the village, remember, he's shrinking things down into their smallest component. Okay? He believes the most natural form of the village is the family unit. All right? And he says that the Hellenic states were governed by kings for this reason. Okay, so going off the point of the family unit being the most natural form of a village. Okay, this is an example of this, the Hellenic states. Okay, now the final component you need for a basic political community is a ruler. Okay, you need a leader. And for Aristotle, families are ruled by the eldest. Okay, so naturally kingships and monarchies form from the colonies of a family because they're all related by blood. All right, that's the natural way to start a lineage. Keep it in the family. Okay, you probably know some examples of lineages who kept it in the family. Okay, Aristotle acknowledges that humans lived dispersedly. Okay, so they lived spread apart at one particular point. And then in ancient times, this is why men say that the gods also lived under a king, okay? Because they used to live dispersely, but then they united, okay? Man in general. And he says men view the gods themselves, okay, their image and form, as well as their way of life to be similar to the human experience, okay? So he thinks that the gods also, were dispersed at one point, and then they formed a larger pantheon. That's how Greek culture works. Greek religion, mythology, whatever you want to call it. Now, in the earlier forms of society are naturally occurring. If they are naturally occurring, So is the state. He believes the state is something that naturally occurs because it is in the end or the last stage in development. Okay. Now, he says particularly, to quote, the nature of a thing is its end. All right. And for what each thing is when it is fully developed, we call its nature. Whether we are speaking of a man or a horse or a family. Okay. So a kid, a child, a baby, their nature is to become a man. Okay. When it is a fully realized baby, it is now a man. The same with an ice cream cone. Okay. It's only a cone. It's only a cone until you add ice cream to it. Then it's an ice cream cone. That is the natural form. Okay? Get the point. Now, he says the final cause and end of a thing is the best, and to be self-sufficing is the end and the best. So, whatever the final end or cause of a thing is, it is the best. Okay? So, for example, the best cheese steak, salt, pepper, ketchup, mayo. Not Cheese Whiz, American cheese. Okay? Don't do that Cheese Whiz stuff. That's trash. Sorry. Don't hate me. It is. Alright? Cheese steak. That is the best way. Alright? It is self-sufficient. And it is at the end of the sandwich. That is the sandwich when it is fully made. Okay? You get what I'm pointing at here. Alright? Now, Aristotle says the state is a creation of nature and man is naturally a political animal. Anyone who naturally is stateless, so they don't have a state, they're basically homeless, according to Aristotle, and this is not by accident. They are either a bad man or they are above humanity, meaning he thinks of them as gods because they don't need to live in a community. Okay, humans need to live in a community. To him, gods don't need to live in a community. Okay. He says that this person who is naturally stateless is like the tribeless, lawless, and heartless ones. Okay. Like barbarians, basically. They don't have a land. They don't have a state. They can't organize. All right. They just roam around killing stuff, breaking stuff, stealing stuff. That's what he's saying that people who don't have a state are. That's who he's comparing them to. So basically, if you exist outside of a state or a community, you must either be a bad person or above humanity. You're more than human, okay? Stateless individuals are the natural outcasts and lovers of war, okay? Because they don't have a home, they love taking yours, like Attila the Hun or other barbarians, all right? And man, according to him, man is the only animal that has the ability to speak. Speaking isn't the same as animal noises because other animals can only perceive pleasure and pain and communicate that to one another. Nothing more. Okay? They can only, that hurt. Tweet, 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 tweet. I want some more food. Tweet, 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 tweet. Okay? They can't communicate any other thoughts other than pain, pleasure. Alright, that's it. That's what animals do, according to Aristotle. And also, speech is intended to distinguish between expedient or just and inexpedient or unjust things. Okay? It's supposed to delineate between here's something that is just or beneficial to people. Here's something that is unjust or not beneficial to people. Okay, to the community. Only man knows good versus evil or just versus unjust. And the association of living beings who have this sense makes a family and a state. Okay? So basically, what Aristotle is trying to articulate, okay, is that because man is the only animal that is capable of speech, okay, with reason and speech, they are able to communicate complex thoughts and ideas, okay? This is why they are highly favored over other animals, okay? Because they have this ability of reason, okay? And they're able to communicate reason to other humans, okay? Now, he believes that this knowledge of reason, this ability to use reason, is what associates beings who have this sense into a family or a state, okay? Remember, smaller parts, larger parts. Now, for Aristotle, the state comes before the family, all right, prior to the family, and the individual, because the whole is of necessity prior to the part. Okay, you must have a state to have a family and be an individual within the state. All right, so it's like, think of it as you start up a hill. Okay, you go up the hill, you're building up, and then you go back down on the other side. Okay, you're building up from the smallest unit, which is the family unit. You bring together multiple family units, okay? And after enough time has passed, you now have a state, okay? And then because you now have a state, other people who are not in the family unit can start to create family units because they have stability. That's what the state provides, okay? This is why he believes you must have a state to have a family, okay? Now, he proves this point by saying, okay, the state is a creation of nature, and prior to the individual is that the individual, when isolated, is not self-sufficing. Okay, that makes him like a part in relation to the whole. All right, for example, a car pedal is not going to push anything if it's not attached to the car. Okay, the tire is not going to propel the car anywhere. It's not going to allow the car to travel anywhere if it's not on the car. Okay, that will be a part separate from the whole. When it is attached to the car, it moves the car. Okay, so in connection with man, when man is alone and not a part of a community, they cannot they are not self-sufficient. They cannot provide every single thing that they need to survive. They might be able to provide some things for a short amount of time, but not a sustained, enough things sustained for a long period of time. Okay. Now, he who is unable to live in society or has no need because he is self-sufficient is either a beast or a god, but not a part of a state. Okay. Take it how you want. This could mean that Aristotle believes Bear Grylls, whatever his name is, the guy that goes out into the wilderness and just camps out there. According to Aristotle, that's a god. Anybody that could go out and provide for themselves, okay, and be self-sufficient without living in a state, you must be a god. You must be a god. To Aristotle. All right. But they can't be a part of a state. He says all men are social creatures by nature. They're naturally social. And the first man to found the state is the greatest, okay? Whoever, according to Aristotle, whoever founded the first state, okay, he is the greatest man because he was able to use his foresight to bring it forth into reality. Now, man in perfected form is the best of animals, but without laws and justice, the worst of all animals. Okay, so barbarians who have no laws, okay, no rules, no leaders, they are the worst of humans. That's what Aristotle thinks. However, people who live in a state, okay, they have laws, they have leaders, they are the best of humans, the best creatures, best of all animals. Okay, now lastly, he says that justice is what bonds men together in states, and the principal order of any political community is the administration of justice or determination of what is just. So remember, he says that you are forming a political community based off of a goal or a common good, okay? And he says that this common good is the administration of justice and a determination or telling people what is just and what is unjust, okay? Now, this is how Aristotle believes the state begins, okay? So to summarize it, the state comes into existence when several villages are united in a single complete community large enough to be nearly or quite self-sufficient, and they originate in the bare needs of life and continue existing for the sake of a good life. Okay? With that being said, we'll stop this right here. This will be the first episode. Okay? Follow me on into the next episode. If you like this episode, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Okay? Tell me what you like. Tell me what you didn't like. I'm open to feedback. Like I said, I'm a chill guy. Okay. See you in the next episode. Deuces.